Welcome to the Authentic Dentist Podcast. Join Dr. Allison House of House Dental in Scottsdale and Shawn Zajas, founder of Zana, a company helping dentists extend their care beyond the chair as they lead dentists deeper along the journey of authenticity to reach greater fulfillment in their professional lives and to deliver remarkable patient experiences. At the core of the Authentic Dentist is a belief that the answer to the current challenges in dentistry is dentists discovering that their greatest asset and point of differentiation is their personal brand, and that forming that brand out of their authentic selves is the best strategy for success in dentistry today.
Hey guys, this is Shawn Zajas and Dr. Allison House with the Authentic Dentist Podcast. And today we're going to talk about something that, I don't know, we could say it's a little more abstract. And that is, what is success? And I think this is obviously a personal one for you and I because we're both deeply committed toward the pursuit of what is going to be meaningful, what is going to be impactful, what is going to be fulfilling. And I think everybody has different definitions of what success is. And I think it has so much to do with also like what time period you're at in your life. If you're, 80 years old, I think you're probably measuring success different than if you're 20 years old. But this came up and just something, in our conversation. So where do you want to jump off with this one?
So I'm in a number of closed Facebook pages that are all dentists only. And one of them is the Mommy Dentist, which Grace Yum started. It's really good. And it came up, what is success? And it was just such a powerful question because I couldn't help but think, like in the male Facebook groups, I noticed that they say a lot about how much money they make. That is really important to their success. But in the female groups, we never talk about money, ever, which I think is interesting. So is that not a measure of success? And then clinical outcomes. I think that's really important to your success, but really nobody knows that but me and maybe my specialist. So there's no outward thing of success. It's only like what I know. And then there was a question, do patients love you? If patients love and respect you, is that success? And I kind of have to argue that maybe it is. If all your patients hate you, maybe that's not a sign of success, even if you make a lot of money. But there were just all these measures, and you start going, do they really, what really matters? I don't even know anymore. Like I can tell you that my mom's definition of success was my house needed to be very, very clean. Dinner needed to be on the table when my husband got home. I mean, there were all these rules that I don't follow. I have a housekeeper. Sometimes I cook, sometimes I don't. I mean, I'm not following those rules. And my dad's definition of success was definitely that he was running the APTA and he was coaching weightlifting. And so when his athletes did well, that made him feel like success. Well, my athletes are kids. They're not competing in the Olympics. That's not going to be part of my success. I don't know. What do you think? What do you think is your success? How do you define it? When do you get there?
Well, and I think that's what is so interesting. It's like starting off, I got thrust into marriage. It's like the one thing I wanted. It's like I wanted to be married.
And a lot of people would say that a happy marriage is a huge definition of success.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, I want to start a family, but I'm realizing, well, I want to be able to obviously provide for them. So this role of like, well, what does provision look like? And at that time, Kelly was making more than me as a labor and delivery nurse. I wasn't threatened by the fact that she was earning more. She was just brilliant and great at what she did. And I think both of us were just success at that time was like, can we stay in touch with each other, and stay connected, prioritize what we're doing, and have a safe place for our family to grow. But then, all of a sudden, it's like the world's definitions of success is like it's so much more about the external and where you the mountains that you're able to summit. And it's like, well, if you're driving the nice car and you're able to go out to eat all the time or travel wherever you want, well, that's got to be a success because that means you have the freedom and autonomy to just do whatever. But it's like, yeah, but if I'm playing a role or if I'm chasing a role that's not really me, how could that ever be a success?
The car thing I don't get. I mean, I like a nice car, but I don't really get it. And it
But
seems
your husband does.
he does. It's really important to him. He drives a Tesla. Okay, I have a nice little, Toyota. But that seems to be important. But I feel like the things that people don't see are much more a measure of my success. Like how happy are my children? Not necessarily how much money they're making, but are they out in the world? Are they doing well? Are they secure? Those things are more important. I mean, don't you feel like your children's happiness and how they're doing in life is part of your success?
100%. And yet I found myself at a place in my life where for the grind and for the glory, I almost lost my family, and I'm looking at my kids and I'm thinking, is it worth them having to suffer because of their dad being a complete expletive? In some conquest of like, well, this is what you do. You conquer, you sacrifice everything for the goal. This is what you do when you're, a man at war. And it's like, well, am I fighting the right battle? Well, not if I'm about to lose my family. No. So yeah, I had to look at it and be like, yeah, I love my kids. My kids are such a gift. And maybe that's not part of everybody's compass or true north or their measurement when they think of success, but 100% it is for me.
And yet I do have friends that their children are not doing well, and not because they weren't good parents. So it's hard to say that your children's success is your measure of success because it doesn't quite seem fair. But I think having a relationship, loving your children, it does feel a little bit like part of your success in life. When I'm trying to think, I'm 50 now. So when I'm looking back at my life at 70, what am I really going to value? What was really important to me? And there's definitely going to be some financial piece because if I'm sitting in a nursing home by myself, in a bad nursing home, I guess, then maybe I should have made more money. I don't know. But did I not invest in my family? Did I not invest in my kids? And I would like to know that I impacted the world in a nice way. That I did good dentistry, even if nobody ever saw it or even my patients didn't notice. But that I did good dentistry, that I helped people. I don't know.
Well, so part of what I'm discovering has a lot to do with like, if I have light that I can shine that's unique to me and my representation of, I always say the divine, but like meaning like some expression of that only I can show the world. Well, then I think success needs to be aligned with almost like some mission that maybe only I can do, because a lot of people can be great dentists. I shouldn't say that casually. It's really difficult, but I'm just saying there's a good amount of people that can do that. A lot of people can be entrepreneurs that come up with solutions. Great. But at the end of the day, it's like, what assignment or mission was something that maybe only I could fulfill? And if I'm busy doing something else, am I going to look back and be like, yeah, but there was a void that I never filled? And that, I think, is what we have to grapple with. Well, what is that kind of lights us up, that makes us fully alive? This sense of, I have one life. I'm in this present moment, and I have this chance to do something with it. And what is going to cause the least amount of regret as I'm in my closing moments of life, looking back and like, oh, what would I wish I did more? I wish I would have posted more on Facebook.
And I know a lot of people make fun of that, but I do feel like that helps people.
Well, and that's true. I didn't mean to minimize it because
No, I mean, it's true. My husband says that. But sometimes when I say me too, because I remember as a young dentist, when I would say this happened, it was awful, I don't know what to do. And somebody would say, yeah, me too. It happens to everybody. It'll be okay. There was some, oh, I'm okay. And I can keep going forward. So I do think maybe there's a piece of that. Posting my dinner on Facebook, maybe not as important. I don't know. I think community, I would like to be part of my community. There's a big push about having friends and relationships with friends. And that's a measure of success. At the same time, I feel like I have so much family that I'm trying to spend time with too. Yeah, I mean, like the measure of success, there's so much. I like what you said though about the mission. What is it that I'm going to look back and wish that I would have done?
Well, and I think that's the difficult thing is that I was in that mastermind and the leader asked me, hey, unique capability, email 7 of your closest friends and ask them, what's my unique capability?
What'd they say?
Well, I emailed 50, first of all.
Overachiever.
Well, but that's what made me realize is that I was connected to 50 people that I thought knew me enough to actually speak into my life. And that was something where I was like, oh, it wasn't difficult for me to ask all these people. So that alone was like a cue, like relationally, like, oh, I've actually built lots of relationships that are deep and genuine and authentic, where I show up as myself and I let people see me. And I got all sorts of different stuff back about like, oh yeah, you're a great listener, or you make people want to be better people, or make, a person feel seen and want to be better. And so I encouraged, that's awesome. But I think it did have something to do with, yeah, being able to elevate people around me to want to be their best. And something about the way that I harness vulnerability and transparency, where it's like, like one of my guy friends was like, Shawn, like the fact that you're so transparent in a real way. He's like, I always want to tell you how my life is just doing amazing and I'm crushing it. And I only want to give the highlights because I'm so nervous about all the other things that I'm afraid the world can see. And you just own it. And I was like, oh, that's not like, this is me. Like, that's not something that I learned about. I just saw my mom walking that, even my dad. But took someone else. They say like contrast is the mother of clarity. Someone else being like, Shawn, that's unique. I was like, oh, really? Like, it's just me. So that's where it's like,
That's special though. That's the Facebook post of me too. You allow people to be honest and vulnerable and you're not cruel, which many people are cruel. Not only that, you're kind. That's a nice gift. That would be a measure of success.
I mean, the only reason why we have this podcast, The Authentic Dentist, is because of what you inspired me to see was your authenticity. Remember, I almost gave up on dentistry because of how, like, everyone was just crushing it. And I'm like, man, I can't be connected and care about an industry where everyone's supposedly just living their best life, crushing it. And yet there's supposedly these high suicide rates. And yet I can't hear from anybody that might be struggling because no one's struggling. Like everyone's just doing great. It didn't make sense. And then all of a sudden you showed up as president of Arizona Dental Association, and yet you still were real and had humility and were honest about just the challenge of life.
I just find it hard to believe that everyone is crushing it. In fact, I would say even the people that are crushing it still, I mean, in order to crush it, don't you have to have a lot of failures to get there? It's just the walk. It's not just me, it's everybody. I think some people are just afraid to say it. So I appreciate that you allowed me to say it. Yeah, there's been a lot of challenges.
So what do you think you're wrestling with right now when it comes to your personal definition of success?
I think there's 3 things. I'm having a hard time with the fact that my practice doesn't make as much money as what is being posted on Facebook. And I don't know what's true and what's not true. I mean, is it only 4 people that are actually making this kind of money? I have all of the qualities. Everything is in line for that. And I feel like I work a lot, but I'm not making that kind of money. And so that kind of bothers me. And yet I don't know if that's really my measure of success because I do tend to just give things away because my heart. The second thing is quality of dentistry. And I feel good about that.
Hold on a second. Does your mind just work this way where you're able to be like, okay, so here's 3 things?
It does.
Because you didn't know I was going to ask you that question.
I didn't. Ooh, it's that mathematical background. There's always like a list in my brain. Here are the 3 things.
It's like you went to exactly where you have it filed.
Yeah.
Okay, I
It's
I interrupted.
sheet back there with like tabs.
I interrupted number 2.
Quality of dentistry. And I do feel like I am successful there. I'm proud of the quality that I'm providing for my patients. And the third thing is my family. And I feel good about that most of the time. Yeah, my kids are doing well. My husband and I have a good marriage. So that feels good. So I guess I'm missing that one measure of success where I feel like financially. And yet the reality is we do fine. We're just fine. We're on track to retire at 65, just like we planned. So I don't know how real that is, or if I've just created this in my mind that's not real.
And that's hard to know. You know, I got so used to like, oh yeah, I just need to get my business here and get my business here and get my business here. And it got to a point where was like, wow, I don't even know if I like take my kids mini golfing because I'm like, oh, we don't have enough yet, or we haven't arrived yet, or we're not free to be able to. And I'm like, what am I waiting for? Because if I always wait for this is the reason why I'm not as present to my kids, or this is the reason why, and someday, well, gosh, that's a really high, like
That's a huge
to
sacrifice.
sacrifice that for the uncertainty that I may never get there. I can't do that. Like I got to give my kids the best life now with whatever we have. Even if I can't go take them to Europe right now because I have 5 kids and do this like 15-day amazing, let's just go through Europe. It doesn't mean we can't do
Okay, I
special
have to tell you the
trips.
story of when I took my daughter to Greece. She was 10 or 11. We were so excited. We were going to Greece. We went on, Mark was speaking, so somebody else paid for it, which was super cool. We took my daughter. We climbed up to the top of the Acropolis. We're looking over, and my daughter looks at me and says, Mom, there's a pile of rocks. Like, this has been lost on her. We should have just gone to Six Flags. She would have been so much happier. So sometimes you have to recognize that it's the time. I'm not sure that being at the top of the Acropolis was what needed to happen right then.
You know what? That's really profound what you just said, though, because sometimes that Acropolis is our definition of success, and someone else, much more simple and maybe having more common sense, might be like, just a bunch of rocks, Mom.
It was profound when she said it.
But I'm just saying, even in the conversation, we're out here to build these kingdoms or of whatever's important to us. And it's like, gosh, I really hope that it's the right thing that we're building. And I know you're very conscientious. You're very, I started taking back up journaling, which I hadn't done for a long time. And I realized I used to do that all the time. And there's something just about slowing down, not having my phone near me, on me, and at night just writing. Almost like to like settle my, almost like to use, like have a light shine on what's going on in my heart. And sometimes you see things that you weren't expecting to see.
Well, so you've touched on something really important too that we haven't even talked about is success part of like your mental and physical health too. I was reading Outlive by, I'm not going to say this right, Peter Attia.
Yeah, I think so.
It's Attia.
Yeah.
And he was talking about, exercise and sleep and all these things that make your body healthy. Well, I also, at 80 years old, don't want to have a broken down body sitting in a wheelchair. So there is a piece of that success that is.
So is that number 4 for you?
Yeah. I'm going to file that in number 4. There's a new tab. But yeah, that I want to be healthy, and I want my mind to be healthy too. And that you're right. I never stop and just allow my mind to meditate or sit.
So if numbers 1 and 2 got checked off, which means somehow you came into a massive
I'm not
windfall.
sure it's actually in order.
No,
I
but
think it's just that's the order it is. I'm not sure that's actually the order of importance.
Agreed. I agree with you 100% because you wouldn't put your family at 3 or
I
relationships.
I really wouldn't. Yeah.
But let's just say money and patient care, because you're no longer a dentist. You wrap that up. It's amazing. You left an amazing legacy, and you have no need for money because you guys are just mega wealthy. Is it just family and health on the list?
Yeah.
No, you still have. I still see so much drive though, because like you do so many things for impact and legacy. Now, I'm guessing you could focus on just the legacy of your kids, but I don't know. I feel like I would see you either speaking or writing something for that, like.
Well, that's that Girl Scout part. Leave the world a better place. Be a sister to every Girl Scout. I think that's the rule. But yeah, I want to mentor my fellow dentists. I like mentoring the young professionals that come and lift. I do want to impart some of that wisdom. I hope that I'm imparting wisdom to them. I mean, sometimes I say something and they're like, boomer. I'm not a boomer, by the way. But I'm not imparting the kind of wisdom that is important to them. But then sometimes they'll say something back to me that I'm like, oh, that did matter to them. They were listening. So you're right. I think there's a legacy piece where I hope I've left the world a little better. I know you have that too. You do all these interviews with people trying to shine a light on who they are and what they're contributing. And that's a huge legacy. That means so much to them, for them to get to express that. And then to get to express it in front of an audience affects the audience too. So, and you facilitate all that.
Well, I think the largest thing we have to grapple with is this idea that we have one life.
Yeah.
And like, you chose to be a dentist. I chose to get a business degree and honor my dad. And I'm in this space in dentistry. But it's like, oh, sorry. Oh, yeah, I guess I am in dentistry.
You are in dentistry. Absolutely.
I said it and I was like, wait, did I just say I was in it? No. And it's like, yeah, my life could have taken all these different paths. And I can't think of what would have, because that doesn't necessarily serve me. But it's like, I don't know how much time I have left. I don't. I mean, I'm 38. Like, I hope it's a lot.
I suspect it's a lot.
But like, I can't live with that as a guarantee. So if I only had a decade, it's like, how would I want that decade to look?
So part of this came up because I had a patient die last week. And the patient came in to me. She'd been in my practice for 10 years. And every time I saw her for 10 years, she told me she was dying in the next 6 months. She had breast cancer. She was going to die in the next 6 months. Just patch it. Just patch it. And she lived her life like that. And she didn't live her life in a good way, that I'm going to die in 6 months, because she lived 10 years telling me that she was going to die in 6 months. So I don't want to live like, oh, there's nothing is worth it. Nothing's worth investing. And at the same time, you don't want to live like, hey, let's spend every penny because I only have 6 months to live and I actually have 10. There's some balance there. I don't know what exactly it is, but I don't want to live life so conservative that I keep putting things off. And I don't want to live so crazy that I have nothing left at 80. But it was a lot to think about. What is success? What does it mean? And what am I going to look back in my life and feel like I did was important?
Thank you for listening to the Authentic Dentist Podcast. To join Allison and Shawn on this journey, hit the subscribe button to never miss an episode. Here's to your success. Express yourself fully. Live authentic.